Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Centre Circle podcast, the new home of West Midlands football. Joining me today, we've got the usual hard-hitting panel of Alex, Drew, and Sam. And on today's podcast, we'll be recapping the weekend's Midlands action as Wolves labour to a 1-0 win, condemning the Blades to relegation. And Birmingham edge out Rotherham in a relegation 6-pointer to pretty much secure Championship football for next season. Also on today's pod, we'll be discussing the recent announcement of the Euro Super League, Pep's quadruple attempt coming to an end, and the ever-developing battle for the top four and the repercussions for the managers up there that we can miss out. So as always, Second City superstars, Bowie's at it again, another masterclass, a late winner from cult hero Harley Dean. Is that no game, set and match? Are you safe?
We're not safe, but we are. We're going to be. I think we all know it. I think even before the game, I think you messaged me this morning or yesterday and said, how are your nerves? And I went, funnily enough, okay, because even if we lose to Rotherham, I think we'll be okay. It just seems different under Lee Bowyer. It doesn't feel like it's typical Blues. Typical Blues would be getting beat today, taking it to the last game of the season and then staying up. But it looks like we're just going to just stay up fairly comfortably. I mean, I'm looking up the table now and I'm thinking we can probably finish 14th, which, I mean, you look at the table at the end of the season, you finish 14th, it looks like you've never been in a relegation battle, but it was one of those games, I don't know if any of you watched the game, it was a scrappy game. We weren't great and it was a 0-0 game, to be fair, but we've come away with, a last minute goal header, typical Blues fashion. And if you can win those games that are just dead, just come away with a win, then it's good signs. Then normally we'd come away and lose those games, but I don't know. It just seems like looking forward, it's really exciting. And Dad actually messaged me in the week, and what did you say? The word promotion was mentioned for next season.
Yeah, I was just laughing a joke around, but I think I said one of the things I said to you was that, I think I'll be looking to have a bet on you to go up next season, the way that you've been playing. But you know what? The form since Bowie's come in, I haven't actually had a look over the past, perhaps 8 games, but I bet you'd probably be close to the top 6.
Yeah, I think we're 4th in the form table. I haven't looked, but I think we're 4th, and with the teams we've played as well. I mean,
I'm like a massive believer in momentum as well. And I mean, you look at what West Ham did last season, ended last year, and they just took it into this season and just gone with it. I mean, I think we've all had a discussion. Some teams have sort of benefited from no fans and different sort of COVID restrictions and stuff. But I don't think Blues have done either way. I think, I just think it was crank. It just wasn't good enough to get the best out of that squad that you had personally. And I think you take that momentum into next year. There's no reason why you can't sort of put yourself in the ring for it, really.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
We were saying before, like that team should be nowhere near that relegation zone, I don't think. When you look at it on paper, and similar to Dale, I was thinking, I don't think you'll be anywhere near promotion or the playoffs next season, but I think you'll be pushing top half quite comfortably, actually, depending on what you do on the summer. He's a bang-on manager, Lee Bowyer, isn't he? He did a good job at Charlton with kind of a poor team, really, at Charlton. You're a better team than Charlton, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do next season, because let's be honest, you are safe. You're definitely safe.
He's a proper man. He's a proper man manager, and he gets that extra 5% out of players that perhaps other managers in that division probably can't. And this is no disrespect to Lee Bowyer. This probably is his level. There's no shame in that. Would he take a team from 17th, 18th in the Premier League on a relegation battling team, be able to turn them into a top half team? Probably not, because there is a golfing pass. However, in this division, what he seems to be doing is getting a tune out of these types of players. And you know what? Fair play to him. And I think we all pretty much said all along that if you were to change Karanka and bring the right man in, that you would get out of it. I went on record and said that if you were to win the last 2 games, which you have gone and done, including Rotherham, then I can't see you going down at all now, and I'm going to stand by that. I think it's done now. I think you're okay.
I mean, 4 clean sheets in a row as well. 4 clean sheets in a row.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think there's a bit of a love affair though, isn't there, with Bowyer, because obviously ex-player knows the club, clearly loves the club, I think the fans wanted him. I think there was a bit of an emotional tie between that. But I also think like when Bowyer played, sort of remembering him sort of when he was a player, he was quite an emotional player. And maybe he's kind of took from different managers of how they sort of managed to get him to channel that emotion into the positive. And maybe, you know, like Lecco, I remember you saying that he seemed to have had his best game under Bowyer, just maybe because he put his arm around him and no one else has yet. So, you know, fair play to him. I think he's done a fantastic job.
I think he can do both, can't he? He can be, you know, you see him on the sidelines getting aggressive, but he's actually quite chilled. And like when he speaks, he just seems really chilled and he gives off just like, I know, a chilled vibe, and it just relaxes everyone around him. And if he's got that and he can get aggressive as well, I think he balances both perfectly.
I mean, it's not,
and next season,
it's just a shame
that
playful. Absolutely, yeah. I think it's just a shame that fans weren't there today to sort of be there beyond the goal for Harley Dean's moment, really. I mean, you know, obviously down the years
since he came in,
sort of Bolton away a few years ago, staying up. And was it Craig Gardner who got the goal? Am I thinking that right?
No,
Paul Caddies.
I know what I'm thinking. Gardner. I know what I'm thinking. Gardner. Just Spurs away when you went down. That's what I've got that in there for. But but just having that iconic moment, and it's a bit of a shame that fans weren't there to sort of see it today. Harley Dean, he's come into criticism over the years. He's never not given 100% for the shirt, but you know he's notoriously been sent off in big games, big derby games. He's been sent off at the Molineux. So for him to sort of have that moment today, to almost clinch it.
With Harley Dean, he's a scapegoat for us, and he gets a lot of stick because he's a captain. And it annoys me because I've always liked Harley Dean. He's not brilliant. He will always give 100%. Sometimes he goes on these mad runs, and I'm like, he thinks he's bloody Sergio Ramos, and I'm like, what are you doing? But Harley Dean is a good player. And he's getting the plaudits now. But it's like when we lose, it's Harley Dean's fault. When we win, Harley Dean's a hero, and he's getting all the plaudits now. And he scored a couple of goals, and he's played well. But I think Mark Roberts isn't getting the credit he deserves. Mark Roberts, since Lee Bowyer has come in, has been absolutely brilliant. And I think he's been better than Harley Dean with his long throws as well. And he couldn't get a sniff a few years ago. He was one who came in under Redknapp, and he was just poor. He couldn't, he'd clear the ball and it just spun out of play. He looked slow, but under Bowyer, I think him and Gary Gardner, for me, have been the main two players. So, with Etheridge in goal and Dean and Roberts at the back, and now we're playing the five at the back. Pedersen can play left centre back. He's playing the kid Steve Seddon, who can whip a ball in as well. And Sam mentioned earlier, if we had a couple of players next season, we could finish top half. But I don't think we need to add players next season to finish top half. I think I've always said it on this podcast as well, like the players we've got are good players. This team are a mid-table at worst team, and with a couple of additions, I'm not going to say we won't get playoffs next season. We won't. I think aim for 10th and then build next season. But looking at the squad, we have a good squad now for the first time in what feels like years. Like we've got impact from the bench, and I don't think we need to sell to buy. In previous years, it's been a case of clear out the deadwood, sign up 2 wingers. We need a centre half, we need 2 strikers, but we don't. We've got the spine of the team. We just need probably a couple of additions to improve. But even if we signed no one, we'll be nowhere near relegation next season. Nowhere near it.
That's good. I think that's, I think we'll obviously touch on Villa, but it's probably the first season in a long time that Blues have kind of looked and gone, well, we know what division we're in next season. It's the same with Villa this year. But I'm just looking at you now and thinking like 6 weeks ago, your energy on this podcast was just so different, mate. You look absolutely quite positive. Yeah. You look, but
we were gone.
You know what? I guess that's why we all love football, don't we? Because, a couple of decent weeks and all of a sudden now, as much as our partners and stuff probably don't like it, it affects our mood, and it's just good. I think all 4 teams have got something to be kind of proud of the way they've been playing of late, to be honest.
I think it's one of them, like I'd given up hope, like literally under Karanka, But like even watching the Blues games, I was sitting there, I don't know how many, and we'd score, and I'd go, no, we'd score, but we're not going to win. It doesn't matter, and then we'd end up going in. I mess in the group chat, don't I? Whenever we're 1-0 up or
Bet on the other team.
So, yeah, literally lump on the other team to win because I just know. But now, even now, you're sitting forward in your chair and you're cheering when, I don't know, it's back. It is back, as stupid as it sounds. But yeah, Lee Bowyer is even more of a legend than he already was.
Is he going to get a statue?
Yeah.
Is he going to
Yeah. Dongs on it.
Retire the shirt.
I'll tell you what, I'll give credit to Trig. Trig's always called out Jude Bellingham being unbelievable, and I think some of us support.
Yeah,
He is actually unbelievable, and he should start for England.
he's frightening.
I'll tell you. To be honest, I kind of jumped on it just because he was Blues. I never really watched him play, if I'm being honest, to say even have an opinion on him. But obviously, being highlighted quite a lot recently, for me, he's a future England captain. I think honestly, he's got every attribute in the book to be one of the best players in the world. And he's how old is he, Triggs?
17.
17.
Ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
And he's not 18 till like the end of the season, like almost the start of next season.
It's crazy. What a future.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this, like, obviously we've seen him play, and I think people thought I was just trying to, because at the time, Villa had Grealish and he was doing well. And I think people thought that I was trying to just, I don't know, compare it just as like a reach. But I was deadly serious when I was saying, like, playing for us last season, like, he was our best player. He was probably our best player. And obviously he was 16 then. And like I could see, and I was saying he's a complete midfielder, and everyone was laughing at me. And it was so frustrating because I just knew. And I was saying he's going to be one of the best players in the world. Don't be stupid. And now I'm just glad that everyone can see it.
Yeah. I mean, how's his brother developing, Trig? Because I mean, I've heard that his brother's as good, or if not better.
Yeah, I mean, word is that he's better than him. I mean,
yeah. I mean, when I heard your academy might be going, mate, I was hoping that we were straight in there, to be fair.
He'll be, I mean, I think he's probably still too young. He'll probably have another season out. But, I mean, he's playing for England, obviously at the youth level. So, I mean, obviously we haven't seen much of him. But, yeah, we'll have to wait a couple of years. But obviously there's potential for him as well. There's the same potential, whether he reaches it or not. Obviously, it's too early to say. I think he's 14 at the minute, probably just turning 15. Yeah. So I suppose in 2 years we'll know more.
Yeah, well, I read about that actually. I sort of read about it earlier actually. I think Bellingham made his 18s debut when he was 14, and then he made his 21s debut when he was 15, and he scored the winner off the bench or something like that. So he can't be far off that sort of development if they expect him on a better trajectory than Jude.
I mean, and it's a shame that obviously it's such a shame that we had to sell him because. I mean, to have, especially both of them, if we'd have kept Jude and bring Job in as well, both the brothers, like, Wonder Kid brothers at Blues, which you just never see.
We had the Gardner brothers, mate.
I know, yeah. Got the Poundland version. Yeah, it's a shame that he went, but I mean, he's been touted around already, isn't he, for 100+ mil, and we get 25% of that.
Job done, isn't it? I think it's clever from the club, like obviously put a sell on board. You weren't going to keep him, were you? And fair play to him. He's moved to the club that's going to nurture him in Dortmund. Could have gone on the bench and sat at City for a couple of seasons. He's gone to the best club.
Well, he went to United, didn't he? Had a look round, Fergie showing him around the ground, and he just went, I don't fancy it.
The thing of it is, though, he wouldn't have played, would he, this season? That's the thing. Like, I know Man U've just spent 40 million on that Diallo, and he's kicked he's scored one goal in Europa League, and but he's not going to develop right in the 23s, is he? So
interesting. Well, good to hear you take anyway on the Blues, and good to see you more positive anyway. I know you got to shoot off somewhere, so thanks a lot for joining us, mate.
No worries. See you later.
See you later.
See you
later.
So next topic on today's podcast is we are going to review last night's game, which was obviously between Wolves and Sheffield United. We did eventually run out 1-0 winners in the end. Thought it was pretty much a lacklustre performance, pretty much the same as Fulham. I did tweet before the Fulham game that it was a must not lose. We had to get a result. I've banged the drum for weeks, months on end that performances, the performance level But last week for me at Fulham, it was put to one side for me. We had to get a result there. We did. So moving into this week now, I was not prepared to accept what I would deem to be a poor performance. I wanted to see improvement, but again, it was primarily we should be beating these teams, but in a sensible way, in a way that, we should be dictating the play, we should be having the majority of possession, we should be creating multiple chances, and we should be really putting 2 or 3 past them. They're a poor side. We've won the game, but there was not much in it at all. A very, very poor. We're pretty much solid in 12th at the moment. I can't see us finishing any higher, probably not even any lower than that now, either looking at our fixtures. I think we've probably got another, I think we've got 6 games left. I think potential to pick up another couple of wins given the fixtures that we've got, which will take us well into the high 40s, perhaps even onto 50 points, which, to be honest, would be quite unthinkable given the season we've had.
Yeah.
To come 12th with 50 points in, what we deem to be a terrible season. And we've all openly said that, perhaps with Raul Jimenez back in the side, we've obviously lost Neto now. We had no Neves through COVID. We've missed Bolly pretty much most of the season. Our best 2 defenders have been out for long-term injuries in Bolly and Johnny. So to sort of scramble through the season and still finish where we have, does it show that the core of the squad is actually better than what I believe it to be? Potentially. I still think it needs, freshening up in areas. Everybody knows that. It's pretty clear to see now. But one player I do want to give a big shout out to, and I know that you two aren't fans of him, and that's Nelson Semedo. And I think that since the turn of the year, he's been our best player. I think he's been our best player. So he should be
for the amount that you paid to him.
But you know what? I think he's been an easy target, really. Just because of where he's come from, Barcelona, for the fee that he's come for. But since the turn of the year, he has shown that level of performance. If you look at the stats, he's actually got the 3rd best tackling rate in the league for fullbacks. The 3rd best. That's ahead of your Matt Targets and your Matty Cashes, who've been, not attacking Villa on this one, but they've both had tremendous seasons for their clubs. Aaron Wan-Bissaka top. Again, a player that's probably gone under the radar this season. But players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's in the top 10. You've got, everyone was raving about Reguilon at Spurs. He's not even in the top 10. So I think that Semedo deserves a little bit of credit for his performances. He has been our best player. I think behind Neves and Neto, he's been our 3rd best player this season. And last night, he was our best player again.
So are we going to... Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but from my opinion, if you're spending 28 million on a right back, he's got to get more than 1 assist in that season. And I get it, you've not had, Jimenez, but you've got capable, to be honest with you, you've probably got one of the biggest threats in the air of a team. And I don't know, I just don't see it. I mean, I think he's susceptible defensively. I think he's up and down. I think his fitness levels are, unbelievable, don't get me wrong. But I think he's made more interceptions and tackles just because you've been under pressure more than you've ever been before.
Yeah, but it's the success rate. It's the success rate. Because you can launch into tackles and not win the ball. Every player is going to be making plenty of them over the course of the season. It's the percentage. And actually,
I get that.
He's actually 3rd in tackles won.
I get that, but from my opinion, personally, I just think I'd want more from a return from 28 million than, he's had an half decent game tonight.
100%, I would agree with you pre-Christmas, but since the turn of the year, this is what I'm saying. I think in this period of time, he has really stepped up, and he has been. But
what's the measure? Good. What's the measure of him being good, though?
I think through the errors haven't been there. I mean, it cost us the game against you at home with a daft late tackle, leaving a lazy leg out. But he's been getting forward. He's been supporting. Again, coming back to the stat of having a successful tackle rate, he has been a much improved player. He's played well in a 4 and he's played well in a 5.
Right, Wolves. I'll give some Wolves. Right, I've been mulling on it. So I texted you last night, didn't I? There, 47% possession at home to Sheffield United. Is that? I don't know. That's they're one of the worst teams ever in the Premier League, by the way, Sheffield United. And that was with Wilder. They don't have Wilder anymore.
Although we both lost to him.
Oh, yeah, we beat him as well. And they had Wilder at the time. I think we talk a lot about trajectory, don't we, on this podcast? Wolves scraping a 1-0 win against Sheffield United, a poor Sheffield United team. I just think it's shocking, really, this season from Wolves. And Dale, I think I'm starting to agree with you that something's got to change, actually. There's only so much, okay, you've had your injuries, but I looked at your team sheet last night. That team should be capable of dominating possession against Sheffield United. It should be on 65% possession against a poor Sheffield United team. At what point do you think, actually, Nuno's maybe not getting enough out of these players? He actually should be, you'll have a look at your lineup last night. You got Moutinho playing. You got Saiss, Cody, Bolly, Semedo, Podence, Adama, William Jose. They're all good players. They're all better than Sheffield United level players anyway, aren't they? And a 1-0 win at home with 47% possession against a team that have been absolutely dreadful all season. I just don't think it's good enough. And obviously, I have to caveat this. This is not me going in on Wolves because I appreciate I'm a West Brom fan. And it's probably not the best season to talk about your rivals and stuff. But, speaking as a neutral, I think I touched on this a few weeks ago. Nobody's excited looking at that game, are they? And I appreciate Sheffield United, a poor team, but you'd expect Wolves any other season to go there and smash Sheffield United, the current Sheffield United team, as opposed to Sheffield United teams gone by. I don't know. What's that? What do you think that result did there in terms of how fans feel about Nuno? I suppose he's going to stay, isn't he? It looks inevitable he's going to stay now. But I see people on Twitter last night going, "Oh, that's a fantastic result." Is it? Is it really a fantastic result? I think our expectations too low. And secondly, on Semedo, all right, he's got a bit better, but he's nowhere near where we're expecting a former Barcelona player, is he? Let's be honest.
The price tag is clouded a little bit because we would never have just gone and slapped 28 million on a right back. We have sold a player. We have sold a player and footed the extra. So really, it's cost us 15 million. You
can't keep on saying that about players, though. You can't say we sold him. So you sold a left forward for 40 million. That doesn't fund your right back. You've not replaced your left forward.
The point on this one is we would never have gone and spent 28 million on a right back if we hadn't have sold our current right back.
I think you would have.
That we did.
I think you would have.
We offloaded Matt Doherty for the price that we did, and then that gives a bulk amount of figure. So Nuno might be given a budget and saying, okay, I've got to stretch this budget to this in certain areas of the field. I want a right back, and I'm prepared to spend 15 million on that. Okay, I'll go and sell Matt Doherty for 12 million, and then I can go and buy Nelson Semedo. And that's pretty much how it has worked. In terms of what you were saying about is Nuno getting the best out of the players, that was the catalyst for me originally calling for his head. As I have gone on record and said continuously, as it goes on and gets closer to the summer, it is absolutely pointless replacing him now. It really is, because that window has come and gone. I still believe that a discussion will happen in the summer, and I still would not be surprised if he did go in the summer. I would be pissed off at that because it just makes no sense to me. 100% agree, totally not good enough. We won a 50-50 game last night. And if you actually look at the goal, that 30 seconds of play pretty much sums up the game. We've had Semedo make a worldie of a block from their player right on the 6-yard line, which is probably goal bound. We've gone up the other end and scored, and that's decided the game. It could have easily gone in our end and we'd have lost that game 1-0. That's pretty much how it was. Being on a knife edge against what we'd say is perhaps Huddersfield and Derby, and I think there was a shit Ipswich team from the mid-90s. Yeah. You'd probably put them bang in that category as probably, a top 5 worst ever Premier League sides. They've been abysmal.
The Villa team that went down has got to be in there as well.
We played them first game of the season. We pretty much caught them cold and scored 2 goals in the first 5 or 6 minutes. From then on, again, it was a 50-50 game. They hit the post. They were pretty much all over us for the majority of the game from there on in. And again, last night, we haven't exactly, blasted them aside. Our record win in the Premier League is still 4-0 against Blackpool under Mick McCarthy.
That's the thing. It's just not exciting, is it?
We've never been a team to sort of smash teams. We've never been like that.
The thing of it is, though, and I know where Sam's coming from, you weren't a team that you'd think, oh, they've just done them 4-3, 2-0. But I actually used to think, I'm looking forward to Wolves coming on because it's going to be a good game. And this season, like again, I don't want to sort of jump all over Wolves or anything because, you know, I think if we're being honest, if you asked most Villa and Wolves fans, I think they'd just go, yeah, just turn the season off now. Like it's just petered out. It's just fizzled out for both teams, I think. But, you know, with the greatest respect, I think the worry for both Villa and Wolves fans is that what we've just spoken to about Alex about momentum is that we are taking poor momentum into a new season. And I just hope new signings or maybe a shock result. Someone, you know, we've got City in the week. I'm not for a minute saying that we're going to beat them, but, you know, a shock result like that could get our tails back up. But, you know, I just think that there's, you know, we both as two teams are taking poor momentum into a new season, to be honest.
There's just one thing I do actually kind of want to bring up though, and that's something I was said this morning actually, and that is that in between Jimenez getting injured and we signing Jose William, we won 1 game out of 10 during those two periods of time. We only got 6 points out of those 10 games. That's the
what was your win rate before?
So we were sixth when Jimenez got injured. And then we dropped right.
Well, you weren't playing well, though, to be fair, because even when Jimenez was playing, you were still sort of banging the drum that you weren't happy with performances. I remember that clearly.
I do agree.
I think
but you can accept poor performances, I think, a little bit more when you're fighting that high up in the league. Which I know, but you know, I actually think that you can accept a results sort of thing, you know, results based now. Then people point to, you know, teams won leagues and stuff on dog shit performances, winning one and stuff like that. But when you're actually fizzling out into mid-table like we were, and we're pretty much playing for nothing for a vast majority of the season, and you see players throwing the towel in and your manager pretty much throwing the towel in after half an hour's worth of football, that's what gets you back up. And they have copped for it off me. And I think that having no fans in there has probably let Nuno off the hook. I specifically point to the Southampton Cup game, where he would never have got away with that with fans in there. I still don't forgive him for that. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you know, questions were asked. I put my points across at the time. However, as it is now, I just think that the moment's come and gone, and we really ought to stick with him, and we've got to give him the budget that he needs to go and get the players. I've highlighted the positions that we need. We need a centre back in there, a proper quality centre back who can play and be reliable for fitness. Dion Sanderson needs to be brought into the fold next season. We're going to need a left back, so we're going to need to ship out Vinagre. I don't want to see us sign 8 new for 18 million. We need a centre midfielder because I really don't think Dendonker's up to it. However, last night he was better. But again, I'm not going to judge his performances too much because it was against a piss poor Sheffield United team. We need a centre forward and we need a winger who can compete on a first team basis with an injured Neto now, which it looks like he's going to be out for 6 months. So we might hang on to him by default for the fact that he's injured for next season. But we need a winger in there. I know Adama's got 2 assists and a goal in his last 3 performances, but he's still not good enough for me.
No.
He's still nowhere near good enough. He needs to be shown the door, but I don't think he will be. No. But they are the positions I would be highlighting and I would be looking towards.
Do you think you would have needed another winger regardless of Neto's injury?
I'd highlighted that anyway because I wanted Adama out. I think 3's enough. So would you? 3's plenty enough, but I don't.
So would you say that you need? So would you still ideally? Would you still like to see 2 wingers coming in and Adama moved on, knowing that Neto is going to come back in, or?
No, I think 3's enough. I want to see Adama gone, but I think with the Neto injury, like you say, it probably makes it unlikely that we're going to be shifting out a winger and bringing in one.
Yeah,
I think that we've really got a battle to keep Neves this summer. I think he's the one player that we're really going to struggle to keep hold of. I think he's a player that a lot of the teams will highlight and think he could slot into our first 11. And I could come across with sounding arrogant here, but I actually think that someone like Liverpool, who are likely to lose Gini Wijnaldum, could potentially look at Ruben Neves.
It's a perfect fit for Liverpool. I don't think there's anywhere else in the top 6 he could necessarily go. Spurs don't need him. Yeah. City don't need him. United don't need him.
I think United do need a defensive midfielder, you know.
No, I think they've got Fred and McTominay in there. I don't think that.
They wouldn't sign him. I think they'll be looking further forward up the pitch, won't they? with their budget. But yeah, that's pretty much wrapping up on Wolves anyway. Next item on the agenda is today's announcement of the Euro Super League. So I'm just going to open this one up to you, Drew, because I know you've got the list in front of you for teams that are put forward for this. So you just want to run us through the teams that are earmarked for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously this is all hearsay at the moment, but, you know, there's no smoke without fire. So you've obviously got your traditional big six, if you like, in the Premier League: Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, United. You've got your three from Italy, which would be Juventus and the two Milans. And then you've got your three from Spain, which would be Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Are the 12 teams that we're obviously being told that have signed up to it, not just interested, they've actually signed up to it, apparently, again. And then literally, you know, what I find incredible about this is that UEFA seem to sort of sit on stuff like racism and, you know, kick it out of sport. But then as soon as money's and big dollars coming into it, bang, emergency meeting held. There's an announcement already waiting for you. All the leagues have basically condemned it and said, listen, anyone that's involved with it, you're not coming back to the league again. You're not going back to Champions League, Europa League. Your players can't play in there for their national teams. Now, you know, you know, whether it does or doesn't get done, I don't think it will get passed. I think this is just a way for those sort of teams to potentially sort of go, right, well, get rid of FFP because we want to flex our muscles and you're kind of restricting us. I think they just want a bit more control with football. And I think this is just their negotiation tactic, to be quite honest. I don't think it will go ahead. However, for even putting your name to it, I think they should be highly punished. I really do. You know, and I'm not saying point deductions, but I just think it's a disgrace what they're doing. I mean, you know, Liverpool bang the drum about how traditional of a club they are, and they see the Champions League as something that they absolutely love and they love being involved with, and blah 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 blah. And then as soon as there's a way of turning a pound into £10, they want to move straight up. And I think it's a disgrace. Any team who's put their name to it is a disgrace. And if I'm being honest, the fact that Tottenham and Arsenal have been put into this Super League, I think's a cheek. They're a disgrace, them two clubs. Arsenal in particular, drawing 1-1 to a poor Fulham team today, but they want to go and join an elite group of teams. Do me a favour.
I think there's two angles to this. I think you've got to look at well, it's greed, isn't it? It's just greed. It's big clubs wanting more money. They're all owned by these massive like corporates. And the reason why German teams can't go in there is because they have to have 51% fan ownership, and the fans are always going to say no to it. The German teams have got it bang on. I think in this country and in other countries like Real Barca, there's too many multi-billionaires, millionaires running the clubs. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the heritage. It's all about money. It'd be a horrendous idea, I think. But on the other hand, you've got to look at UEFA as well. So UEFA are going to announce reforms tomorrow to the Champions League that will bring in 36 clubs. It will help British clubs at the moment, because at the moment it would fifth and sixth because of the coefficient would qualify for the Champions League.
You know, on places, Sam, does it work on like viewing figures, or is it like attendances at stadiums?
It's your coefficient, as I understand it, is at the moment. So it'll go into a 36 team Champions League where you play 10 games, I think it is now. That's before you get to the knockout stage. Can we afford to put more fixtures in the diary at the moment? I'm not actually sure that we can.
No, but I mean, in terms of, you know, like obviously certain leagues get more places, like obviously the Premier League get more places.
It's all coefficient.
Oh, okay.
It's how your clubs do in Europe as you progress. So you know, the further you go into the further you go into a competition, the higher your coefficient's going to be. So I don't think UEFA are without fault as well. Like, they're coming out as like the good guys in this. They're not the good guys at all. They want more money.
So corrupt.
So I think, you know, the fans are ultimately going to lose out both ways. I think keep the Champions League as it is. Has anyone got an issue with the Champions League as it is at the moment? Like, it works, doesn't it? I think you've got to allow for other countries' teams to at least compete. It shouldn't just be overrun by the top nation, should it? It already makes loads of money. So I think both things are horrendous. I agree that there should be sanctions for the top six, especially in our country. because it's just a big money grab, and what it's gonna do is rip apart again the top six from. They're not even the top six, are they? I think you said Spurs and Arsenal. Arsenal, like I said, the cheek of it. Like Arsenal are a horrendous football team at the moment. They should be nowhere near it. Give it to Everton as opposed to Arsenal. They've all got better.
I mean, the fans alone don't deserve it. They're an absolute cesspit. That fan base, absolute cesspit.
But I just think I'm with Gary Neville on this. I think it's outrageous that it's even being discussed. But all money, as is football at the moment.
I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you think it does go ahead or not?
Nah, not a chance it goes ahead. What could happen? It puts the Premier League in jeopardy, doesn't it? They've got to have Premier League sanctions to go ahead. The only way they're going to do it is by breaking away from the Premier League. It kind of reminds me of the BDO PDC there, but a lot of different circumstances. The Premier League's too big a beast to break up the Premier League. I think it's not going to happen. The fans going to want to be travelling to Europe every other week.
I think as well, yeah.
Not at all. Ticket prices are already horrendous as it is. I'm with the German clubs on this. Keep your domestic tournament. Premier League's the best in the world. Why are we even entertaining it? And then keep your Champions League as it is. I don't think there's a lot wrong with it at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, let's play devil's advocate. Our three teams are part of the top six. And we sort of said that we're going to go forward with this, and it does go ahead, and our three teams then went into this elite group. Would you continue to follow your team, or would you think that it's just they've disgraced it that much? What would you do?
I think you would, wouldn't you? Because it's your team. But I think what's getting people's back up as well is there's no relegation, is there? So once you're in this league, you're in this league, and you can't get out.
It's just American
This is
sports,
what
isn't it?
I was going to come on to. Who'd honestly watch exhibition football like this? Because that's all it's going to fucking be.
It is
Absolute
exhibition
disgrace. It'd be the same format every single season with the same clubs. There'd be no excitement whatsoever.
Yeah. And I think
ultimately the true appeal with football and the Football League and one-off European competitions is the unpredictability.
Of course it is.
And I think we all kind of know that, once a year you're going to get to watch Real Madrid v City or Chelsea versus whoever, and it's exciting because those two teams don't play against each other all the time. They don't sort of study them week in, week out, blah, blah, blah. To play every single week, I think it just becomes, a training match, to be quite honest. Like you say, Sam, I'm not being funny, but who can afford to keep travelling to Europe to keep following their team? Again, they probably haven't thought about that.
They have, mate. It's just a current trend of
so many
you only
teams,
came for the rich.
How many teams are actually listed for this in total?
12. 3 from
12.
Spain, 3 from Italy, and 6 from...
They want more though, don't they?
We cover 50%, right, of the initial teams that have been pitched forward for this, right? I'm telling you now, there's one solution to this. The broadcasters need to grow a backbone and take a stance against this. So that's BBC, ITV, Sky Sports, BT Sport. We will not cover this.
But they will, though, wouldn't they?
They will, and that's a problem. Unfortunately, it's all right for us because we're not money people. But if you're talking about earning billions of pounds, they're going to do it. It's as simple as that. Money talks, bullshit walks.
It doesn't go ahead, though. I'd be very shocked.
Amazon have already got a bit of a foothold in the Premier League now anyway, and I think that streaming eventually will take over and be the way forward. Like your BTs and your Skies will be clinging on for dear life in 10 years' time.
Do you think?
I personally think so, yeah.
I think the main thing is that it won't happen. It is a negotiation tool. They are just trying to get more control in football. But to go about it in this respect, I think it's a disgrace. Personally, I really do. I'll reiterate the point. I think the teams that have put their name forward. I think it was one of our mates, Jake, messaged me saying that the chairman of this league is going to be a chairman from a football team, and then every single other team's chairman will be a vice chairman within that league. How does that work? How can you be the chairman of that league but be the chairman of your club as well? Making the decisions.
I thought I'd heard it all this season with fucking pay-per-view football. I thought I'd heard it all with that. And
well, I tell you what, if they do break away, they can take VAR with them.
The fans got that removed. Pay-per-view football.
Yeah.
There's no two.
That was horrendous. That was. But
again,
you know what?
Is it right in saying that there was only one club in the Premier League who voted against it?
Yeah, it was. That's a disgrace as well.
Was Leicester the only ones?
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, if they do break away from the Prem, they can take VAR with them.
Yeah.
Nah,
So It's a thumbs down from me.
Thumbs down for me. It's disgusting.
Yeah, absolute disgrace. Next item, Pep's quadruple attempt coming to an end. One of the things I actually mentioned to you last night, Sam, was that just pitching a few different scenarios. So I love Pep. I've gone on record and saying that I'll put him as number 2, didn't I, in the Premier League all-time managers list. Looks likely to achieve his third title, title this season. It's plausible that with a Kevin De Bruyne injury on his hands, he's bang up against it. You know, the Champions League. It's not exactly a given, is it? He's played PSG, just knocked out. You know, don't get me wrong, a patched up Bayern team who were missing pretty much a first 11, but they still beat the holders. They made the final last season. That is a 50-50 title. I'd actually make PSG marginal favourites now if De Bruyne's going to be out for these 2 games. They've just been beat by Chelsea, and they were beat well last night. They were beat very well. Chelsea, I think, will be very close next season. They'll strengthen again. League Cup final, you'd expect them to beat Spurs, but again, it is only a final. It is a final, anything can happen. Jose's job's likely going to be on the line. Never know in a final. It's plausible it could come out this season with just the league. Would we deem that a failure? Absolutely not. It's still an incredible achievement to win your domestic league title, the Premier League especially. However, the point I want to make is that when he's gone so deep in so many competitions, what's the bare minimum now, do you think?
He's got to win the Premier League and the League Cup, hasn't he? He's got to win the Champions League. I think I don't think he will win the Champions League, but I think he's got to. It was a strange performance last night, wasn't it? Not once did I think, oh, they look like they really want this. The players didn't really want it at all. You look at, I don't know, just Chelsea. I think you said that Chelsea outplayed them for vast majority of it. Why chops and change with Stones and Diaz? I don't know. Like, just stick to Stones and Diaz. You know you're going to keep clean sheets. Laporte's a fantastic defender, but he's not been on it this season. Just stick with what you're good at. He needs a striker, doesn't he? I think definitely. But Chelsea outplayed them last night. Champions League, I think they might beat PSG. I don't rate PSG. I mean, Barca should have smashed PSG. They had Lee Choupo-Moting playing, didn't they, instead of Lewandowski. If Lewandowski plays that game, Bayern win by a couple of goals, I think, actually, because they created so many chances. I think Chelsea might win the Champions League, which is scary. I think I'd have them as favourites, actually. They're not going to be favourites in the bookies, but they look the team most likely to win it just because of how solid they are over 2 legs and then going into a final. But yeah, I think he'll win the Premier League and League Cup. It would be outrageous if he doesn't beat Mourinho Spurs in the final, but stranger things have happened. I think it would be classed as a disappointment just because of the trophies they had on offer at one point. So they were going for 4 if they only ended up with the Premier League and League Cup. And then Premier League is amazing to win, but where they were, I think you look back on the season, you think it could have been so much better. But we'll see if they do Champions League as well. Then
let's run you through the players that Bayern actually had missing midweek.
Yeah.
So we had Costa, Gnabry, Goretzka, Hoffman, Lewandowski, Roca, Sule, Tillman, and Tolisso.
I mean, you look at Gnabry and Lewandowski, and that I'm sure they sort of made up probably 50% of their goals last season. But I mean, sort of going back to Pep for me, you know what? Even if he does just come away with winning the Premier League this year, which I don't think he will, I think he'll get at least 2. But I actually think it's a breath of fresh air. You know, how serious he takes the domestic cups, because I don't think enough managers do. And I think we've said before, I mean, you imagine, like, tonight, one of our teams was sat playing in the semi-final against Leicester or Southampton thinking, we had it this last season, a favourable tie in Leicester to go and then play in the final. It's kind of it gives your season a bit of a meaning. Do you know what I mean? And I think with Pep, the fact that he takes it so serious and gets so deep into all of these competitions. I think it's the first time with City that they've actually got past the quarters. Am I right in thinking that?
They made the semi a few years ago against Madrid. But it's the first time under Pep.
Yeah. So, like, again, like you say, it's semi-final to semi-final. Anything can happen. I personally think they've got enough to beat PSG. I do, but I then again, going on yesterday's performance, I just think Chelsea just looks solid, and I think speaking to Sam, I'm so excited for the Premier League next season because I genuinely don't think there's a favourite. I don't think there's a favourite to win the league next season. I think it will be very, very close. I think Chelsea will continue to strengthen. I think they've now got an elite manager. I think City have got an elite manager. I think Klopp will get Liverpool ticking again next season. Man U will be very, very close. I think you've got 4 teams that you could, if all 4 of us were sat here now going, I'm going to put £5 on X. It's not laughable, is it? There's 4 teams that could win the league next season. And I don't think we've had that for a long time, to be honest.
Completely agree. Good point. It has been felt like forever that it's, it was always throughout the years. It was Arsenal, Man United as we were growing up, then kind of developed into Chelsea, Man United, and then I think Chelsea and City have had a couple of runaway years, and obviously Liverpool and City over the past 2 to 3 years. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, look, going ahead into next season, I said about 3-4 weeks ago, I thought that Chelsea would be City's closest challengers next season. I think Liverpool's cycle is kind of coming to an end. I think that they're a little bit open to potentially losing Mo Salah in the summer, which it's a massive hole in that team because the amount of goals they're going to lose to him is quite a lot. City will be favourites. There's no doubt about that. There's no bookmaker. There's no bookmaker who won't make City favourites just because the spending power they've got at the disposal. I know Chelsea have, but it's not on the scale of City, is it? And City have obviously got the best players. They've got De Bruyne. They've obviously got great centre-back pairing, Phil Foden, and they've got the best manager as well, haven't they? So City will start as favourites, but I would think that Chelsea perhaps would be second favourites if you were to price it up right now.
I mean, I think from City's point of view, and I think they have got a lot of money, but they plugged a massive gap in getting Diaz in this season, and I think they need to go balls out to plug a second gap in a striker next season. And then if they did that, they honestly could take over football because they're just the squad, the manager, the structure of the club now is impeccable. Really, they've got like clubs in Australia and America. They're developing teams properly. They're doing things for the area. I think it. Like I said before, I'm not a City fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's a breath of fresh air that they're actually taking everything so serious. I really do.
I like that aspect of it. However, one of the things I would like to point out about Man City is that, from my point of view, I still look at them and think that yes, they're a great team, but I just think that they lose so much without De Bruyne that they go from being the best team to sort of, you just feel like you can beat them. But you just feel like you can beat them, and they have still got that soft underbelly. And you think that without De Bruyne, they are vulnerable. And I've had that feeling for a couple of years now. And I know that Pep managed it perfectly a couple of seasons ago. De Bruyne was actually a massive part of the season. They still went on that 14-game run and won the league by 19. But it's a psychological effect for me. I still feel that without De Bruyne, Man City are vulnerable.
They looked vulnerable with De Bruyne against Dortmund, didn't they? And Dortmund, with all due respect to Dortmund, haven't had the best season, have they? Yeah.
No, I mean, I think if you look at the form book this season, with and without City, I think City have done better without De Bruyne in their team this season. Their best run of form and where they sort of stretched that gap at the top was without De Bruyne.
Just from a prediction point of view then, I know that before yesterday you would have claimed all 4 trophies, but how many do you think City will end up with?
2. I think they'll beat Tottenham, and I think they'll win a league. I don't think they've got enough this season for Champions League. I think Chelsea will do them. I think so. I think you bang on. I think Chelsea do them.
2 League Cup, Premier League. Again. Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm going for 2 as well. I think that PSG will beat them, actually.
So again, just on that, if they did that treble, is that as good as Man United's treble?
What treble for what Champions League one?
Yeah, if they won all 3, the last 3, is that as good as what Man U have done?
Man U won the FA Cup, didn't they? Yeah. Holds more weight than the League Cup, I think.
I guess.
100%. Yeah. Okay. So, whilst we're on this subject, then, my favourite pundit, Paul Merson, couple of weeks ago put an article up on Sky and mentioned that the top four race, and he gave his predictions. He pretty much wrote Chelsea off. So, true to form, they will now obviously blast in there and get top four, no doubt about it. Pretty much top two are shoo-ins. Who do we think will come third and fourth?
Chelsea, Liverpool.
Chelsea, West Ham. I'm going to go out there brave. I'd love West Ham to do it as well. I think just to stir it up. I'm not, in my heart of hearts, I really think West Ham will do it. Probably not, but I'd love them to do it. So I'm going to stick with them on that basis.
I think if Rice was fit, I'd be with you. But I just think he's such a big miss for him.
I'm going to go Chelsea and Leicester. I think Leicester will get there. I just think that West Ham, obviously yesterday they lost the game. I know they're playing with 10 men for a long period, but I just don't think they're good enough to finish above Liverpool and, two of the three. I think we're all pretty much writing Spurs up as well. So on that front, Paul Merson actually did, like I say, didn't put Chelsea in there. So there's three managers I'm going to throw at you, and if none of them get the top four, do you think they should be out of the job? That's Rodgers, Klopp and Jose.
I think Rodgers outrageous to even think about sacking Rodgers. The club's on a massive upward trajectory and they're going to challenge the top four for years to come. Klopp is a legend at Liverpool and will go when Klopp says he'll go. Jose, even if he did get the top four, get rid of him. He's absolutely sucked the life out of the football club. If I'm Harry Kane, I'm getting the fastest ticket out and I'm telling Daniel Levy I'm leaving, whatever the case, because that football club is... It's never going to win trophies, is it? And if they're going to win the Premier League next year,
win the League Cup.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Kane needs to show some ambition and leave that football club.
I think Tottenham, and I know this is digging way back, but Tottenham showed what sort of a club they are when they came third in a 2-horse race, when Leicester won the league. And that's Tottenham. I'm sorry, but it is. And, to be honest with you, we talk about cycles. I think Tottenham are very, very close to their cycle now. And I think, they'll get another manager in. And I think when you're like Arsenal, where you're chopping, you get a manager in for a season and you're already calling for his head halfway through that season, you're in a bit of trouble. I think Arsenal, honestly, I think they're a disgrace. And I think for me personally, I think Arteta is under a lot of pressure. I think Jose will go, regardless, like Sam, I do think he will go. I think he's lost the dressing room. I think the way he's treated people like Dele Alli, and I've not been a great lover of Dele Alli, but I do think he deserves a bit better than what Mourinho's done. But ultimately, if I'm Son and Harry Kane, I'm looking for a big move.
I actually don't think Spurs have got a bad team.
Barnsley, Pochettino won the Champions League.
I think Spurs have got a good team actually. And I think they're massively underachieving under Mourinho. I think he gets them playing crap football, dour crap football. When in reality, I think they've got a few decent players. But
they have. But so have Arsenal.
They're not top four, though, are they? I wouldn't put Spurs in the top four.
I think they've got potential to be. I do. If you look at
potential, but we're talking here they could be challenging for top four, but they're pretty much in a league position to be doing that at the moment anyway. So
I think Haaland and Kane are in very, very similar positions where they don't want to tell the club they want to leave, but hopefully if their achievements aren't good enough to match where they want to be, they can say, well, listen, I want Champions League football, I can go. And I think realistically, I think that's going to happen. I think Dortmund miss out on Champions League and I think Tottenham do. And I think that's going to be their way out and say, listen, I just want to play football.
I think Dortmund will let Haaland leave. I don't think Spurs will let Kane leave. I think there's always been an agreement with Haaland that he'll go.
Yeah, I don't think they've got a choice, like you say. He's got a clause, hasn't he?
They have. Daniel Levy will stop Kane going though, when unless someone pays 150 million. Harry Kane's going to be a Spurs player next year. He's always going to be a Spurs player, I think.
Think he'll leave? No, I think he'll leave.
I think he wants to leave. I don't think he'll be allowed to leave.
I think he will. I think he will go.
Who's going to buy him though?
City.
They've said they don't want a striker, and I think if they do, they'll buy Haaland.
How many
do you know what? I'm going to dive in here. The natural progression is to Hollywood FC for these Dortmund players. So I'm taking Lewandowski out of Bayern and I'm putting him somewhere else in Europe.
Do you think?
I think so, yeah.
What, Man City?
I think so, yeah.
Well, Haaland's going to go to Bayern Munich, isn't he? I think not this season, the season after.
Yeah,
Happens all
there's
the
rumours,
time.
isn't there?
Happens all the time. You go from Dortmund to Bayern Munich. So I could see that actually, Dale. Yeah, I haven't thought about it
You
before,
know,
but I could see that.
you know what though, and I get where you're coming from. I know that is kind of Bayern's stepping stone, isn't it? Let Dortmund develop them, and then we'll nick them. But I actually think Haaland's sort of connection with the Premier League, his old man playing there, he was born in England. I think that he wants to play in the Premier League personally, and I think he knows that's where the money is. And let's face it, like I think they're talking it's like 60 million. Just for like the fees of like signing on fee for Haaland, his dad, and Mina Raiola, 60 million before you've even sort of kicked the ball.
Do you
And
think that Messi's still a possibility for City?
Yeah, I do.
well, he's a free agent now, isn't he?
I don't think they'll pay for him though. I think he wants outrageous wages. I read like you're talking like $1 million net, so $1 million before taxes. That's outrageous.
The thing with it is though, again, and I know this is like, but like you get that money back in shirt sales straight away.
That's a myth. That is like the kit people take most of it. But
then like it's the merchandise and everything that you get from it. Of like,
does he bring with him?
Oh, don't get me wrong, it'd be fantastic for the Premier League. It's
yeah,
a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone that's an unbelievable player, like regardless of whether they come to one of our teams or not, we want them in the Premier League because we want to be able to watch the best players every week. But yeah, me personally, I think I put a bit of prediction. I think Lukaku will move as well. I think Lukaku comes back to the Premier League, and I think he'll go back to Chelsea. I think Haaland has got a chance. I think personally going to City, and I think Kane will go to Man U. Man U have pretty much touted that they're desperate for a striker next season because I think Martial's proved he's not good enough. Cavani is probably too old to keep giving him the wage that he's on. So yeah, I think those three strikers could move into the Premier League.
I'd love Kane to get to Man United. I think that would take them that step up. I do. Get Kane as a centre back.
You imagine how competitive that top four would be.
100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't write Liverpool off in this transfer window yet of perhaps getting someone in because I do see this potentially losing Salah in the summer, so they will have a big buffer to play with.
If they do Salah in the mid-table.
Yeah, that's a fair shout.
Marnie's hardly firing, is he? I mean, he knows not to score your goals. That midfield's
best season. Final question then, quick one before we wrap up then. We've got potentially Aston Villa, how many games you got left this season? You've got 8 games left this season. It's not looking likely that Grealish is going to be playing within the next fortnight at least, is it? So...
Well, to be fair, he's just posted up a couple of videos. He's like back running. He's on a watt bike and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we've seen all of it. We saw him in training ground pictures and stuff. I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
How many games does he have to play this season for him to warrant being taken to the Euros?
I think it's over, mate.
Do you think that it's unfair to take him now, given the fact
I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's unfair.
Okay, not unfair. That's worded wrong. And what I'd say is that you wouldn't take him now because he's not played enough.
No, I would take him, but me personally, and I know I might come off as a bit of Villa fan. I think Southgate's always looking for an excuse as to why he can't pick Grealish, and I think he's got the perfect excuse. Let's say 5 games, does that get him fit enough to be at that level? He probably doesn't. So he probably, like, for me personally, I think we have, and the statement when they said he had a setback said he would be out for at least another couple of weeks, but he would be back before to get a few games before Euros. But me personally, I think the resurgence of Jesse Lingard has kind of pushed him out a little bit. I do also think that, I personally think he'll take 3 strikers. I know you guys don't think he does, but I just don't know where he fits Jack into the squad now. And you know what? Like, if I didn't have the Villa connection, I'd probably be saying the same thing. He's not played enough. I mean, he's played, I think it's like 60% of our games he's played this season. It's not good enough.
So if he played 2 games before the end of the season for Villa, you would take him?
I'd take him because I love him, because I'm a Villa fan. I watch him week in, week out, and I know that you know what? It's a funny one. So let's say Mount Yeah, so
I'll take it.
I'm saying someone like Mount or Foden, and I think they all kind of do the same job. I think Jack Grealish, again, taking my Villa hat off, he's the only person that's different. He's the only person that can go past players at ease. He can break the lines when we're playing against the poorer teams and they're compact. He's the only player I personally would go get at him. No one else is going to get at him and draw fouls. You've got potentially, let's say, devil's advocate, Ward-Prowse makes the squad. You got probably the best set piece taker we've had since David Beckham, with some of the biggest, some unbelievable players in the air, and you've got Jack Grealish who can draw in fouls. I'm not for a minute saying that Ward-Prowse is going to go, but that's the scenario. What I'm trying to say, but
A wasted selection for me, Ward-Prowse. A wasted selection because he won't play. He
doesn't do anything for me.
You've got you look at your bench. You turn to your bench and say, for example, we're in a quarter final and we're against Belgium in a quarter final. That probably isn't a projected route, but for example, we're a semi final. You look to your bench. You're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go. You're not fucking bringing on Ward-Prowse, are you? You're just not.
I think if you're going to waste,
what's the point?
I think if you're going to waste a place on a player that's not going to start, it needs to be someone like what he did in the World Cup with Cahill, who's been to multiple tournaments, got experience, can kind of tell them how they should be, preparing in tournament football. If you're going to waste that, me personally, if you're going to waste it on a player that's not going to get football, it should be an experienced old head that can, calm them down, be a calm head in the dressing room. But to answer your question, would I take Grealish? Yes. Do I think he'll go? No.
I'd agree with that. I agree. I think if he's fully fit, you've got to take Jack and probably play Jack. He's not fit, is he? I think it's clear that he's not fit. I think he'll be out for longer than expected, actually. I think there's something they're not telling us about Jack Grealish.
I mean, he's been out for 3 months. It takes a long time to get match fit after 3 months.
I also don't think Southgate plans on starting him. It's pretty clear what the starting lineup will probably be. It'll be Lingard's going to go now. I don't think you can't take Lingard at the moment either, by the way. Like, I've never been Jesse Lingard's biggest fan, but look at that form. It's unbelievable form.
Goals.
I'd go the other way from you in terms of if you're going to take a dead player as well. I'd take someone young like they did with Walcott, because if you read what the ex-pros say about that, taking someone at a young age to tournament football sets you up for the next time. So take someone young. I don't know who that would be, but we need all the space.
Well, the thing is,
I don't even think you can.
You bring up Walcott being taken to the 2006 World Cup, and he got omitted from the 2010 squad.
It did, but apparently, like, if you listen to any ex-pro speak, they'll say going to a tournament and being around the players just gives you so much experience.
Who got to Brazil? Was it John Flanagan and John Stones for character building?
It's crazy. I mean, you see, this is the thing. Like, what kind of annoys me a little bit about England is that I know what the starting 11 is going to be. As long as there's no more injuries, I can tell you right now what the 11 would be. Maybe one or two either side. I think it'll be the right. I think Walker starts right back. I think Stones and Maguire are your centre halves, depending on who's fit. But Pickford starts in goal. Yeah. Left back's Chilwell.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think he's nailed on now. He's made his decision.
100%. Phillips and Rice will be holding midfielders. And I think you'll have Mount in number 10, and then you've got Rashford, you've got Sterling, and you've got Harry Kane. And I tell you now, if you save this video, I bet you, barring maybe one player and maybe injuries, that will be your starting 11.
I think he starts Lingard. I've got a feeling he starts Lingard.
I just don't think. I mean, the only way he fits Lingard in now is if he puts Mount as your wide right, because I mean, this time last season when the Euro should have been going ahead, Sterling was first on the team sheet for me. He was unbelievable last year. Now, me personally, I think he's fighting for his place in the squad. He's not starting for Man City. Yesterday, he was a disgrace. The amount of times he ran with the ball, he just looked clueless. I mean, he looks like he's had a 60-game season. He's just on his knees, but he hasn't. He's been poor. He's been awful, and he looks like. I think he had that season where every time he was in the box, it was a magnet. The ball was a magnet, and he just seemed to fall at his feet, and he'd get those little tap-ins. He can't buy a goal at the minute.
I'll take it back about Lingard. I think I agree with you, Drew, with the back up until Rice and Phillips, and I think he goes Foden actually, Mount, Kane, Sterling. That's I think how he'll start the first game, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think the amount of times that we've seen Phillips, there's a reason for it. And he's admitted, he said,
He's gonna play.
I know what my 11 is, and I think Phillips is in his 11, to be
He
personal.
is, it's guaranteed.
The only thing, like I say, the only thing that I think kind of moves him away from that 11 that I've just said, I think it's injuries. But again, looking as a national team, as to England, barring maybe, like you say, Sam, 2 or 3 players, you know what the 11 is going to be. You're already starting to prepare for what that 11 is going to be, and I think it's awful.
Do you take Mason Greenwood?
No. Maybe he could be the player that's the young lad that's not going to get a play.
Pushing for it, and he played well today. I thought he was excellent again today.
He did, but I think he's shown that he let Southgate down, and I think
he did actually, didn't he?
Because of how straight laced Southgate is, I think you get one chance of him, and I think that's why I think Grealish is blown. Like I don't think
Foden did the same, didn't he? And he's back in the fold.
He did, but he bounced straight back, didn't he? I think he scored 2 the following game, whereas Greenwood got dropped from Man U. He still had a little bit of trouble at Man U. There was rumours that he was turning up late for training as well, and there was videos of him like with his girlfriend on social media and stuff. And I just think you can see that he probably just needs to give his head a bit of a shake, to be honest with you. And the admission might be the thing that kickstarts him and go, actually, this could all crumble like that if I ain't careful.
It's quite funny actually as well, because the 2 right backs that are probably going to go is Walker and Trent. However, there's probably many people across England who'd probably say that Wan-Bissaka and Reece James are the best 2 right backs in England.
He's overlooked massively, I think. I think he's actually very good, Wan-Bissaka, and he should get a chance in that England team.
I'll tell you now, Trent Alexander-Arnold will not be going into that squad. 100%. I'm convinced of it.
He might not, actually, the more you see it.
I think Reece James does. I think Trent misses out as well.
Trent will go. I think he's Champions League winner. He's a league winner. He's proven. He's got loads of international caps. He's got experience. I just think.
But why not put him into the squad then?
He's the better pick. I think he's the better pick. Personally.
I mean, I've had this discussion.
Good player.
I've had this discussion with Sam, and I think you are right in terms of if you go Wan-Bissaka, it's because you're playing France and you just want to get him against Mbappe. If you're playing Walker, it's because he's got pace. He can do a bit of both. He can defend. He gets himself out of trouble defending because of how fast he is. I think Reece James is he can do a bit of both. He can play multiple positions. I think Trent's probably the only one that's different in terms of that he could change the game with a free kick, with a delivery, with a bit of creativity. I don't know. I just don't think he's done enough. I think he's been poor. I really think he's been poor. And, Southgate has gone on record multiple times to say you are picked on form and he would be going against it massively. I mean, the media went nuts that week that he played well and got 1 assist. And then he was absolutely minging the game after and nothing got said again. And it's just...
I've been an advocate for Trent, haven't I? But if Reece James wins the Champions League with Chelsea, you've got to take him. Standard. You can't not take him.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, talking about form as well, I mean, I just think if he's going with form and he's adamant on taking 3 strikers, then I just do not see how it would be fair for Ollie Watkins not to be the 3rd striker, but he's not going to pick him, and that's what leads me to think that perhaps he should pick 2 strikers, Calvert-Lewin as the backup, and then he's got many other strikers who are sort of adaptable in that role. I mean, it's potentially at the very most 7 games. What's the likelihood of both Kane and Calvert-Lewin both getting injured? You don't need a 3rd centre forward, and if you do, you've got interchangeable strikers anyway. We've taken somebody like a Marcus Rashford, or even Sterling. I know he's not neither of them the focal points, but you can't cover every base for me. Yeah. 2's plenty enough. And then I think as well, Jadon Sancho has to go for me. Has to go.
I think you've got to sometimes I think you've got to separate your opinion of them for club football and opinion of them for England, because Sam says to me so many times, and I'm like, Pickford, oh my God, and he's like, but name me a time he's ever let England down, and I can't. He's always been good for England, in fairness. And me personally, and this might be a bit of a shocking comment, but I think Calvert-Lewin, I think his shot conversion rate's pathetic. He's got to be one of the worst in the league. Me personally, I think he's struggling as well, like form-wise. But then you take him into his England, and I think he scored 7 in 9, and you think, well, he's definitely going. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's easy to kind of get carried away that they're having a bit of poor form. But that, sometimes as a striker, that can be because the team's not playing very well, not creating enough chances. But yeah, I'm potentially a little bit more in terms of the free strikers because there's not an obvious third, and they might just go with someone like a Sterling that can play both positions and go, well, he can cover two, so let's do that. And then Grealish gets his position back. But again, I don't think he plays a lot of football, even if he goes, if I'm being honest, Grealish.
Yeah. So anyway, all you viewers out there, let us know your discussions as always. Follow us on Twitter. Please like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.